Welcome to Marvel Champions Podcast, a podcast about Marvel Champions the card game. I'm your host Scott, and with me as always my co-host Ryan.
How's it going?
Ryan's going pretty good. We got a new little episode, especially while we've got a little bit of time still until the next new release for Marvel Champions. I think we're gonna call this one a Champion Recheck, Champion Checkup.
Champion Checkup.
Is that what we called it?
Yeah, I think so.
All right, Champion Checkup. So, in a nutshell, Champion Checkup is us playing some older heroes, some older villains, and kind of giving you our thoughts. It's been a while since we played some of these, and just kind of get a fresh new take, or maybe play some newer aspect cards that's come out with these older heroes or older villains with some newer encounter sets, and just see how they play and what's different.
Yeah, as this game continues to expand and grow, and I guess those are the same words. It's interesting to see how these newer cards interact with these older heroes and villains with the newer encounter sets, and trying to find ways to improve them or new ways to play these heroes to make them fun, if they weren't already, or to make them still fun and fresh from when you've played them years ago. So I think we've decided to start pretty basically at the beginning with the heroes that we've selected. You want to let everyone know who you chose?
I chose to play from the core box Black Panther in a protection build.
So I think to help kind of set this up, give us your quick 10-second impression of Black Panther way back in the day, and then kind of move into what you think of him now.
So, old thoughts of Black Panther was he was very upgrade heavy. So, it was a lot of build. Felt a little slow at first, especially with the card pull back then. But once he got kind of built out, he was pretty much good to go. His retaliate was nice. I did feel like he could die a little easy. I remember one game we had where I think I died like the third turn, and we were like, okay, we only have this much time to get a game in, and I died in like the third turn, and we're like, there's not enough time to start a new game. What do we do? Yeah. But Black Panther, overall pretty good. I think he was probably ranks like 2, 3 for me out of the core box heroes.
Like number 2 best, number 3 best, or
yeah, around there, 2, 3 depending on the day.
Okay, so he was up there as one of the better ones for you.
For me, I know it's gonna. There's some people that love this or that, but for me, he was kind of right in the middle or above average.
Yeah, I think he played different than a lot of heroes back in the core. Probably not the most different, but that focus on Wakanda Forever really made him a little interesting.
Yeah, I think that aspect with him is he has cards that you have to have certain cards to trigger his upgrades, which I think we see later on in the game. Like a Miles Morales is very similar. He has these abilities, but he can't really use them unless you can get them activated. And Black Panther is that way.
Yeah. I remember when I first played with him, my initial thought of his ability is just Retaliate 1. There's nothing fancy or anything cool about it. And I'm not sure if my feelings have changed, though I do have a little bit more respect for Retaliate with newer protection builds. But I think it really suffered as the card pool continued to grow when you had heroes that could gain Retaliate. Like Captain America just equips it.
Right. Like it was almost like It would have been nice if he had retaliate and something else.
Yeah, or just make it where no one else could get retaliate, though I don't know how fun that would be. But yeah,
Mm.
just something that made it more than just retaliate. And then his setup or his alter ego ability is just a setup where you
Yeah,
just put an upgrade, which is good for him, but it doesn't create a lot of fun interactions during the game, just at the beginning of the game.
yeah, and usually you're going for one of two kind of upgrades.
Yeah, yeah. So now with this retrospective that we're doing, what what do you think of Black Panther now? Or better yet, just to tell us uh, who you like, what aspect you played with him, and the things that you kind of did with his deck.
So I did a protection build, and I did kind of like a modified repurpose with a couple of tech cards. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I think the two that I had was energy barriers and I can't remember the name of it, but it's like the force field generator, shield generator, something like that. 3 cost. You get like 6 counters, forced interrupt to prevent the damage.
Isn't it
But
force field generator?
it might be.
Okay, sounds good.
So those are like my two higher costs because what repurpose does is you can discard a tech upgrade, you get to ready, and then you get to add the cost value to one of your basic stats.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so to pair it with that, I took his ability he has of retaliate, and then I tried to maximize that. So I had a dauntless, and then I had an electrostatic armor. That way, I could hypothetically be like a 3 retaliate. I would have to defend to get the
Mm-hmm.
electrostatic armor,
Yeah.
but then I could defend. I had a armored vest, so defending for 3, and then hopefully retaliate, quote unquote retaliate for 3, and then repurpose ready, and then have like a decent 4 to 5 attack or thwart whatever we needed for the round.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I remember you. I think you got rid of repurposed a force field generator, and that jacked your stats up pretty high.
Yeah.
So that was nice. One thing I noticed, I want to get your thoughts on, is you got out his support, which is the Golden City,
Mm-hmm.
and used that pretty early in the game. And just like looking at it, it's a pretty strong support.
My first turn on that game was pretty wild because I was able to get, I think I had like 1 vibranium, like 1 or 2 doubles, and then I ended up getting Golden City in my initial hand. So I was able to like put that down, drew 2, played Nick, drew 3. I think I put out a mansion and then drew another
Mm-hmm.
one.
Yeah,
So
you
it
did
was,
put out a mansion.
so I had Golden City, a mansion, and Nick like turn 1, and I mean I was pretty much ready to go draw wise.
Yeah, yeah. That's one thing I've learned about Black Panther is all of his cards are either 2 costs or less, and he comes with that vibranium, which is a 2 plus, or not 2 plus, but just
2 wild,
resource card. Um, and
and you
I
get
think,
3 of them.
and you have 3 of them. So
Yep.
out of all the heroes, I feel like he's the one hero that is least likely to benefit from the classic 3 energy genius strength cards, which I feel like are just mandatory for all decks.
And I don't know if I ran them. I think that was part of my play. I either ran none of them or maybe one of them.
But because of how low his costs are, they're not even really missed. So I think that's very interesting for Black Panther is that ability to be able to get a lot done for cheap.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Do you want to say who you played or keep finishing out Black Panther?
Let me do my final stuff on Black Panther because I want to talk about his upgrades.
Okay.
Um, So he's got the 4 upgrades, which is it. His whole deck's built around that.
Mhm.
Um, and just seeing how the game has evolved and stuff. One thing that I'm not a big fan is 3 out of the 4 are damage related, which obviously that's one of the big components of the game. But I think after like watching you play, I think it would have been nice if one of them did something different, that wasn't just attack. So the 4 is energy daggers, which basically deals 1 damage to everybody. I'm not going to deal with talk about the final stuff. There's the Panther claws, which deals 2 damage to a particular enemy, so it's your big attack one. Vibranium suit is you get to move a damage and heal, which is great. And then there's Tactical Genius, which is the threat one. But I think it would have been nice to see something that was like Ready Black Panther, or give him a tough status card, or
See, that's what I was thinking you could do for something like that. Like, you could remove a status card if it was the first one, and then like give him a status card if it was or give the villain a status card if it was the last one, something like that.
yeah. And I'll have to admit that each one of those has served a really good purpose in certain games. Like I've had where there's lots of enemies, so energy daggers really helped, or Black Panther claws where I was able to do more damage, or healing with vibranium suit. But yeah, I think it'd just been more diverse to have something else.
Yeah. We're gonna focus on the 4 upgrades, his 4 main upgrades. His energy daggers, I'm okay with how it is. Panther claws, I'm okay with how it is. Tactical, no, I want to do the other one before I do tactical genius. Vibranium suit, it's a damage plus a heal,
Mm-hmm.
so that one is pretty balanced. The one to me that I think is the weakest
Yep.
is his tactical genius, because it's only remove 1 from a scheme or 2 if it's the final, and it's just not great.
It's
I
not it's I've never seen it be useful, or as useful as I feel like it should.
like I would rather see it be 2. It's just like the base, because it's not too powerful at 2, and then the final one is either like 3, just bump them both up by 1.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, that's my only thing with his upgrades. I think the
Yeah.
tactical genius, the thwart aspect, just is not there. He doesn't have a thwart event, and it's just
Yeah.
not.
Yeah. I agree. And since he doesn't really none of his cards ready him, he's only got a 2 thwart on his hero. So you're just not doing a whole lot of thwarting with him. And granted, if you pull out multiple um Vibrant or Wakanda Forevers on the same turn, you'll be doing a decent amount of thwart. And if you bump it up by 1, like you mentioned, it might be too much. But then again, that's kind of his deck. Your goal is to be able to try to pump out more than 1 Wakanda
Yeah,
Forever.
and he has 5 in his deck, and I think the most I was ever able to play, and it was like very late game. That was the other thing with my strategy, is like I think I had like 18 to 20 cards on the field in my
Mm-hmm.
play area, so I think I was able to get like 3 out in a single turn.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I mean,
But
but like right there, that's like 3 damage or 3 thwart.
yeah,
Ooh,
yeah. It's not a big impact. So compared to the others, the others I feel like have the potential for larger impact. So, all right. Any final thoughts on Black Panther?
he was fun. It was fun to play him again. Like I said, it was neat to get a hands or a draw pile that was pretty low. I think I got it down to like 20 to 22 cards, and
Mm-hmm.
then being able to draw all those extra cards. I was able to kind of go through the deck in just a couple turns and get all those good cards that make him keep continually activating. which was fun.
Yeah, yeah. I definitely think he's still in the very solid category. Like anybody could play him and be successful in what they're doing. And he can basically take any of the aspects and do just fine in any of them.
Yeah, Eh, he's one of those heroes where his player kit is
Mm-hmm.
really all that matters to him. It doesn't really matter what aspect you're playing him in.
Yeah, the aspects are very much just trying to build off of his main stuff, and it's a little hard to do, but it seemed like you found a pretty good way of doing that with the repurpose protection and whatnot.
Repurpose was okay. I was able to get it working a couple times, but I
Mm-hmm.
would say it's not as consistent as other protection builds that I've had
Yeah, I
good
I think
success with.
I think the most success you had with it was actually just getting damaged because you were doing his retaliate. You had the um, oh shoot, the it's not the vest,
Electrostatic armor.
the yes, thank you, the armor, which did one. You had uh, dauntless, which did another one, um, and then you had the energy barrier to do
Yeah,
extra. So you were doing quite a bit of damage when they attacked you.
yeah, that was the other thing that was nice for him because that's a 3 cost card. It's kind of high, but with all his resources, his
Mm-hmm.
he was able to, even if I defended for 3 and it did like 4, it was able to ping off that 1 extra damage. And I could get some value out of Force Field Generator's actual card before I repurposed it.
Yeah, yeah.
I think I would usually take it down to like 2 and then repurpose it.
Mm-hmm. Yep, yep. Well, cool. Yeah, I still give him the stamp of approval.
It is Wakanda Forever approved.
All right, you ready for mine?
Yeah. Tell us who you played.
All right. In our game, I busted out Iron Man. So I haven't played Tony Stark Iron Man in a while. Um,
So give us your historical remembrance.
my historical remembrance was that he was very slow to get going, and he was a character that had to prep to get going. There was no like kind of, oh, I'll just kind of do a few little things and then I'll work on his kit. I mean, his kit is absolutely central to making him sing. Um, and and once you got him going, he was probably the most powerful in the core box, I felt. But you had to get going first before he could get that power level. And in a true solo, it was a little bit more difficult.
Yeah, you ran that risk of having to stay down to really use all his benefits and cards or hand size and the risk of threading out.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep. Yeah, and just kind of looking back on him and playing other characters, I think in a way he's very similar to Ironheart, or I should say Ironheart's very similar to him in that you have to build up, but once you reach that built stage, they just steamroll over everything. Um, that's something that I really realized that are very similar between those two. Um, I will say for him, so I ran him leadership, and the whole deck idea on him was basically just getting a good amount of allies out and just using them to generate cards, um, and trying to get like Nick Fury out and generating cards. Um, so I was drawing tons of cards every turn, and because he had so many upgrades out, I was I think there was one turn that I decked out twice. because I drew a ton of cards, but also he has the repulsor blast, which it deals 1 damage, but you have to discard 5 cards, and it deals additional damage. Which that card is for only 1 cost. It's not bad, I guess, but it's very luck based. But you can build around that luck to make it hit more often.
Yeah, I remember that particular card being very late game, higher hit rate because you're like you said, you kind of thin your deck a little bit with all your upgrades, and then hopefully you've got a good amount of energy cards in there, and then it's a little better than trying to shoot a repulsor blast earlier in the game.
Yeah, yeah. But his upgrades, they're they're good. I mean, he's got his damage one, which is his power gauntlets, which is just exhaust and deal damage, which is great. If you're aerial, 2 damage. If you have both of them out, that's a consistent 2 to 4 damage, which is pretty great. His Mark 5 armor gives him 6 health points. Oh, geez, man, that's so much. I mean, his arc reactor is amazing. Being able to ready is pretty powerful. And he's a great thwarting machine just on his own because you have that ready ability. So you're just doing boom, 2, boom, another 2. So Justice makes him even more powerful with that. And then, of course, he's got the Mark 5 helmet, which removes threat. So he's got a lot of tools. I think his weakest upgrade is the boots, because it gives him 1 health point, but it just gives him aerial, which affects his other armor, but it just kind of seems flat a little bit. But for 1 cost, I guess it's not too bad.
So my two, like, could have been better. Or his helmet, his helmet. One, it's kind of like the Black Panther thing. It's like, really, just one. Yes, it can be spread when you're aerial, which made it a little bit better a couple of times. But I mean, let's be real. How many times are you gonna have multiple side schemes out to take off a bunch of thwart? And then the other thing that always bothered me with Iron Man was, why does he have 2 boots that are the same thing? And why is there no like benefit for having both of them besides the extra hit point?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it makes sense for the gauntlets to be the same, but the boots, it didn't. So in our game, because of that, I actually never put down my second rocket boots because I could use them to basically draw a card, a resource with Stark Tower, which pulls the topmost tech upgrade from your discard. So I would just use that as a resource, use the Stark Tower to bring it back.
One thing I could see without making it like too powerful would be like, if you have a single boot, you could do as it is currently. You could discard to go aerial, but if you had both in play, you just gained aerial.
Yeah, I think as we've gotten new heroes and their ability to achieve aerial very easily, I think that would be a pretty good compromise.
Yeah, and
But
thematically, that's a miss.
yeah,
When I think
yeah,
Iron Man, I think him flying around.
I agree. I mean that's his thing. He flies around and shoots laser beams.
Pew, pew, pew.
But I mean that's just how the game has evolved and whatnot. So
Yeah, I mean, we're talking hero concepts from 4+ years ago.
yeah, I mean, and honestly, that just make him more powerful. And he is so strong.
He does not look like it at face value, but you are definitely right.
Yeah, yeah. I will say his weakest card, and everybody knows all about this, is the signature ally of War Machine.
Yeah, he rivals the worst signature ally in the game, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, if you just look at straight numbers, you're doing at best 6 attack in a tough or 8 attack. 8 attack for 4 cost is not great.
Yeah.
And then his ability is just even worse. I mean, it's very selective. Like I feel like he was designed to be the Ultron killer because of the core box, but I've never I've never used him. It's never been worth it.
I think the only time I've ever used him and his ability was in an Ultron game when all we had was the core box.
Yeah, that's probably where most people have used him. But I do have a question. So his ability is action, exhaust War Machine, and deal 2 damage to him. Deal 1 damage to each enemy. So in a multiplayer game, that could be better. But do you think if it was changed to either deal 1 damage to War Machine and deal 1 damage to each player or each enemy, or do 2 damage to War Machine and deal 2 damage to each enemy, do you think one of those switches would make him too powerful, or it wouldn't make a difference? What's your thoughts?
I think if you're going to have the higher cost, because he can only do that twice, right?
Yes, as it currently
Because
is.
he has 4 health.
Mm.
I would want to see either a reduction in the. Because really, if you deal 1 and then if you take 1 and then deal 1 to everything, yeah, you could do that 4 times. But I mean, unless you're playing a game that's very, very minion heavy and minion based, it's still not that strong. It's like, ooh, I dealt 1 to the villain. Ooh, I dealt 1 to the villain. Oh, I'm dead. Like,
Yeah, I
it's
it's definitely you've got to um you've got to play him in a multiplayer setting. It's got to be like three or four players, and there has to be, just to balance it with his just attacking. So if you attack twice, that's 2 damage. That's 4 damage. Sorry, that's 2 damage that he would take, 2 consequential, and he would deal 4 damage. So that means you would have to do that ability to match it. There would have to be at minimum 3 minions in the villain to equal 4 damage, which in solo and even in 2-player, that's not going to happen super often.
yeah. No, I agree.
So yeah, I mean, great for Ultron in a 4-player game, I'm sure, but it's just never been useful for other villains.
Yeah.
So my grade for Iron Man is he's still a beast.
The one thing that I remember about Iron Man is if you could go aerial and then do, I call it a sucker punch. What's it really called?
Supersonic punch.
Yeah, yeah. His supersonic punch for 8, 2 for 8
Oh,
is
that's
insane.
awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I
Oh
know a
yeah.
lot of people are like, Spider-Man has the standard 3 for 8. But I mean, this is core box 2 for 8. Technically, you do have to discard or spend a resource technically. But if you've got something else, a generator set up to use that,
Mm-hmm.
then, you know, yeah,
He,
technically it's 3 for 8, but
yeah, I mean he's a genius. So the new card that is it Ingenuity.
mm-hmm.
I mean that's a great card for him. Throw that on, and then there you go. You got your science resource for your boots every time.
And even like with Wave 1, Quinn Carrier kind of solved that problem too.
Yeah, yeah,
But the Ingenuity is a new one that's the exact resource you need.
yeah, yeah. So I honestly, even with all the new cards, I think he's still strong. The new cards just make him maybe a little bit stronger overall, because kind of like Black Panther, it's all about his kit.
Right.
The only thing is there are more tech upgrade cards in the pool, which can help with his hand size.
Yeah. I mean, I was sharing some of my tech with you.
Yeah, he gave me the electrostatic armor and boosted it up, but I was drawing. I mean, it's only a few turns, and I was drawing all 7 cards. It was
Yeah.
crazy.
I think the scenario we played helped that a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. We did play. We played Risky Business. So, um, it was the module set was City in Chaos.
Yeah, City and Chaos with Rhino. I think my like two takeaways from that one was there's a side scheme in there that like blanked out all locations. So there was
Mm-hmm.
a turn where I was like, okay, I'm gonna flip down, do my big draw with my Golden City and my Avengers Mansion, and they were both blank, which stunk.
Yeah, yeah. That was I'm a fan of Risky Business, and I know some people don't like it because you can kind of game it, and we kind of gamed it a little bit since both our characters required some setup, but he still had his challenging moments. But we definitely handled him pretty well.
Yeah, it took us a couple turns, but once we were able to go, the one thing I like about Risky Business is, you do all that work to get him flipped. He punishes you for flipping him, and then we had like two things that really I wanted to like point out. We got him flipped. We started doing some damage. He did his villain turn, and he had like one or two boosts that took down the counters to flip him back.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think like both our encounter cards took a counter off, and he flipped back to Norman Osborn. And I forgot, like, man, he can really swing back really quick. And then you got to do all that work again to flip him and then get punished again when you weren't really like planning on it.
Yeah, yeah,
And then the other thing is if you don't pay attention to the criminal enterprises counters, they can stack up, you know,
yeah. I
10, 12, 14, and it doesn't seem like much, but that's like 10, 12, 14 extra damage that you're having to do on top of with a normal villain that you're just being able to like pound the villain with.
yeah, yeah. Risky Business for a while was my favorite to play just because it was different. You didn't have to just punch the villain. You kind of had to think a little bit. And it, I agree. You, I never thought of it until like our game that basically is just adding health every time he puts those counters on when he's Norman Osborn.
I,
Um,
yeah,
and it was fine. Eventually, we were able to control it because we had everything upgraded, so we were able to just pump out damage and just flip them immediately.
I think it puts you in like as a player, it puts you in like this false sense of security where it's like
Yes.
you don't think anything's happening, but he is. He's kind of making it more difficult and more health that you're having to deal with when you're like, ooh, I get a free turn in hero form because he's not really attacking me.
Yeah, I remember playing a game against him, and I can't remember who I was. I want to say it was when Quicksilver just came out, and I was testing him, and I got caught in that loop where I wasn't strong enough to uh, flip him, and I finally flip him, and I get beaten up as Quicksilver, and then he gets flipped back, and I just felt like I never could gain ground on him.
That was one protection card I liked. It's a preparation. I think it's called like defensive stance, and you get to prevent 3 whenever you would take damage. So
Mm-hmm.
I know a lot of those protection cards are very when the enemy attack based, but this one's not. So I was able to take care of a lot of that damage when he flipped, which was nice.
Yeah, yeah.
But I kind of gamed knowing who we were playing. I prepared for that.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you can't avoid that. Once you've played a villain, you're gonna start to know their cards and
Yeah.
find the best way to beat them. So,
All right. Did you tell us your thoughts on Iron Man after your
basically,
checkup? Yeah.
yeah, he's awesome. He's still a great hero. He still does great things. He can be a little more complicated for newer players, but um, he's not super hard to figure out. So he's he's an A plus. still.
Yeah, he's like 2 or 3 for me.
So
No,
wait, so
him
who's your number
those
one then in the
those were
core?
my 2. Iron Man
Okay.
and Black Panther, because
I was thinking
we
they
all
were your
know I
top
don't like
ones.
She-Hulk, and I just can never like Captain Marvel. Nothing against her. I played her a couple times, but for my play style, and I it wasn't fun. And I think
Yeah.
Spider-Man is good and fun. Um, I think he has some gaps in his core kit that,
Yeah.
but I mean, Spider-Man, Iron Man, Black Panther are my top 3.
Well, whenever we do our next one, I'm claiming Spider-Man, so that way you have to do Captain Marvel or She-Hulk.
Okay, I'll have to think about who I want to play then,
I
or
guess
maybe I'll just
technically,
play Iron Man.
I was gonna say, I guess you could just do someone else, or you could do some of the expansion of that cycle too. So you can be Captain or something, Captain America. But I claim Miss Marvel though. No, well, no, you probably should play Miss Marvel because you never played her.
I played her some.
Change it up a little bit. But
Yeah, but I guess if that's, I mean, it is the champion checkup. I probably should play those ones again
mm-hmm. Yeah,
to see if they gotten better.
yeah. So, um, in reflection on Risky Business, I still think it's a fun one. I had fun playing it. I definitely see, as I've played it more and more, ways to game it, but I still enjoy it. I think it's a fun villain, and uh, I'm all about fun, so keep it coming.
Yeah, I like Risky Business. The 2-sided villain card has always been a neat thing for me. I like that he plays different. It's one of those first ones that introduced the like not straightforward, just go punch and don't
Yep.
threat out. It was one of those you got to kind of time and play it. I think to make him better or different is definitely throw in an encounter set that kind of spices things up. Whatever
Yeah.
that one is, you know.
Yep. No, I agreed. I think just throwing in an encounter set that just alters things up a little bit, I think is good for them.
I'm trying to think of anything else from our game from a villain encounter set perspective that we encountered. I think we had one where we both decked out, and then
Oh yes.
so we had like 4 encounter cards total, 2 each, and I got the one that's like Rhino attacks you. If Rhino's not in play, go find him.
Yep.
And he was sitting under. He was one of your 2 cards. I was
Yep.
like, sweet.
It whiffed.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty nice. And he came out. He's big and scary. He's got 8 health, but I supersonic punched him and took care of him in one shot.
Yeah, he popped him right in the chin.
Yeah. So his encounter set, I didn't feel like it probably altered enough. We did it randomly, so I'm sure you can go through and find an encounter set that probably fit his playstyle a little bit more and make it a tougher scenario.
I think maybe a encounter set that had some side schemes that put like crisis icons out.
Yeah, I think we saw one of those, but again, it was just one, and
Right.
we were able to take care of it, so the main scheme didn't get crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think you're right. I think kind of double downing on that false sense of security of alter ego.
Yeah. Because in your mind, you're like, I can just flip down. And he schemes, I think his base is 2 in Norman Osborn.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yep.
I mean, he has potential to scheme. I think most of the time for us, he schemed for like 4. So, because his base scenario cards have decent boost icons.
Yeah, a lot of them also had boost abilities with them, I believe.
Yeah, a lot of his are take 2 counters off if he's in Norman, or put two tokens on if he's Norman Osborn, or take tokens off if he's Green Goblin.
Yep. Yep.
or add one, take one.
Mm-hmm.
That's when he's doing a lot of that.
Yep. Absolutely. All right, man. Well, that's it. It was a
That's
fun game.
it. Champion Checkup approved. It was fun. It was fun to go back and play some of those older heroes that gain a little bit of dust from time to time.
Yeah, I mean, when you got so many heroes to play, it's just you're not going to get to every single
Right.
one every time.
And you got some that are your favorite, some
Of
that aren't.
course, absolutely.
All right. Well, if you want to share with us some of your champion checkups, or maybe who we should play from the core box next time, send us a message over at marvelchampionspod@gmail.com. And until next time, if you want to go from a chump to a champ, listen to the Marvel Champions podcast. Thanks.
See ya.